You may be wondering why I'm here and what I'm going to do. Well, to get straight to the point, I was myself diagnosed with prostate cancer about 7 or 8 years ago. And I'll go into a bit of detail about my personal situation a bit later. But that's why I'm here. I'm one of the fortunate ones that got tested in time and was successfully treated. And a lot of people are not so lucky. One man dies of prostate cancer every hour in this country. You'll hear some of the statistics later, but 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer in the UK at some time in their lives. So what, 5 or 6 of you in this room are likely to get it. And not all of you will be diagnosed unless you take an action to get diagnosed. So without more ado, and again I think the technology is failing me here, Mr. Bluetooth, but we'll just do it the old-fashioned way. So I'm a volunteer with prostate cancer. After I was diagnosed, I got involved in the charity, and they called for volunteers to join what they call the awareness program. And there's about 250 of us in the UK, mostly ex-patients, that get invited to places like this, or Rotary clubs, or Lions clubs, or West Indian communities, and I'll explain that a bit later. So the agenda is firstly this awareness talk, which is actually sponsored by Deloitte's. I have to put that in because they gave £2 million to Prostate Cancer UK to pay for the visual aids and the expenses of running these. So we've got to thank them for that. Then there'll be just a little bit about Prostate Cancer UK charity. This isn't a fundraising exercise, so don't worry about that. Although I've got a tin there which I might put on the table just in case you feel, well, there's some literature too at the end, by the way, and that costs money, so if you want to just allay your conscience, you can put a penny or two in the box. Number 3 is my personal brush with prostate cancer, and then some questions at the end.
Oh, are you off?
Nipping off to play golf with Dave.
Come sit next to me for a second.
Why? What's wrong?
Nothing's wrong. It's just been ages since we've had a father-son chat. You're getting older. I bet you're feeling different. And that is because your body's going through a lot of changes. It's perfectly normal for a man of your age.
Yeah.
Do you know what your prostate is?
Oh.
Don't roll your eyes. Look, when you make love to Mum, your prostate is the thing that makes your man milk. And if your prostate gets cancer, it might need to come out, and your little soldier could have trouble firing. And that isn't even the worst part. You could die. So, there's this website I found.
All right, fine. I've got it. Can I go now?
No,
Dave's
you
waiting.
Can't. You and all your lot of friends need to do something about this. Now.
Oh, this is ridiculous. What am I going to tell Dave?
Well, let's bring him in.
Oh, no, Dan, don't, please, Dan.
Dave has a prostate too. Hi, Dave, come in.
Just here to pick up your dad.
Dad was just going off to his study. You can join him. He'll explain.
We have to go online.
So that was an advert that Prostate Cancer has been putting out in recent months, Sky Sports and what have you. It raises the issue in a humorous way, and I think the juxtaposition of the father telling the son the facts of life, and then later in life the son knows more than dad, and I'm sure most of us know that. So this is the official presentation which I'm going to do now, what you need to know about prostate cancer and prostate problems. Know your prostate, what is it, where is it, and what can go wrong, what to look out for, know your risks, and there are many different types of risks, from age, family history, ethnicity, body weight, fitness, etc. And know your rights. If you're 50 plus, you have rights. I don't think there's anybody here over 50, but just be patient. And what to do next. So what do you know about prostate cancer? Well, actually, before I had my first encounter with a doctor, I knew virtually nothing. So if you know virtually nothing, you're in good company. But first the question is, how many men in the UK will get prostate cancer at some point in their lives? Well, I've already given the game away on this, but it's not 1 in 20, it's not 1 in 12, it's 1 in 8. So it's not one of these rare diseases that somebody might not get. You go in a pub and there'll be possibly 10 men in there that will get prostate cancer, or 7 or 8 in this room here. That's why it's important. So 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer. And how many men are diagnosed each year in the UK? It's not 11,000, it's not 26,000, it's 42,000. So it's a significant number. Considering you guys have got probably 10, 20, 30 years of life left, the odds of getting that get worse and worse every year. And at the moment, there are 300,000 men living with prostate cancer in the UK. So what do you know about your prostate? So where is it? Well, in the chest, in the mid-torso, underneath the bladder. Well, no, it's down below. But 2 out of 3 adults don't know where the prostate is. So just a bit of graphic detail. It's underneath the bladder, and you can see the bladder there, the prostate gland, the testicles, and all the other bits. So what is it? Well, for a start, only men have a prostate. That's worth talking about. It's a gland. Its main job is to help make semen. The interesting thing is, how big is it? Because you hear so much about it, and it sounds like an enormous thing. Well, it's actually the size of a walnut. So there's a tiny thing that sort of size, which is such a pain and kills so many people. Well, what can go wrong? And there are actually lots of things that can go wrong with your prostate, you'll be pleased to know, and not all of them are fatal. You can have an enlarged prostate, which is the most common problem, common in men above 50. It doesn't mean you have cancer and doesn't increase your risk, but it provides other medical problems. But that needs to be ironed out during the diagnostic process. There's a thing called prostatitis, which is an inflammation or infection of the prostate. Most common in younger and middle-aged men, typically between 30 and 50. So it's more an infection and not a cancer. Needs to be treated, but it's not fatal. So it's not the same as prostate cancer and doesn't increase your risk. So those are 2 prostate cancer things that you can sort of push to one side. The key one today is the prostate cancer, where the cells keep growing in an uncontrolled way. They can develop when cells start to grow in an uncontrolled way, as it says there. And if this happens in the prostate gland, prostate cancer can develop. It can also, though, spread to other parts of the body, and most dangerously to the bone, lymph glands. So it can start there and spread to the rest of the body, and the consequences of that I leave to your imagination. The strange thing about this disease is that often there are no symptoms at all, which is a slightly frightening thing, because normally you go and see the doctor if you've got a pain somewhere or an itch or whatever, because doctor, I've got this problem, can you do something about it? But often with prostate cancer, you don't even know you've got it. I had no symptoms at all. I had no pain. I had no inkling of the fact that I had a cancer inside me. But there are some things to look for which can help, so you might as well be aware of some of the things. And it's all really to do with problems in the waterworks. like needing to pee more often than usual, day or night. Doesn't necessarily mean a prostate cancer problem, but something to look for. Difficulty going for a pee, a weak flow, needing to rush to pee, feeling you haven't emptied your bladder properly, see heads nodding around the room, dribbling urine. So symptoms can be similar for prostate cancer and for non-cancerous prostate problems. So we've got a bit of a problem here, haven't we, in terms of fault finding, what is going on. But as I've said, most men with early stage prostate cancer have no symptoms at all. So we'll come back to that. So now the question is, are you at risk? Because actually the idea of this talk is to put the fear of God into you to make sure you do something about it. So I make no apology for that whatsoever. We're grown men after all. So, as I pointed out earlier, in the UK, 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer. So there's a fair risk there if you're a betting man. Extraordinary statistic here, if you're black, you're at double the risk. So 1 in 4 black men will get prostate cancer. In fact, in recent months, I've been spending a lot of time with the West Indian community in Luton because they've realised the particular problems for their community. And nobody knows why, because that's one of the frightening things, again, about prostate cancer, that a lot of the questions are unanswered. There's no proper diagnostic routine. There's no reliable cure. It mainly affects men over the age of 50, and your risk increases as you get older. I was in my late 50s, so I was perhaps younger than a lot. But there's also a family risk, and this is an important one. If, for example, father, brother, cousin, you're 2.5 times more likely to get prostate cancer if your father or brother had it. So if your dad had it, and that was one of the first questions my GP asked, did my father have it? Well, my father died at 63. He didn't have it. He might well have had it. He might have had it later in life, but he didn't. So that's a slightly worrisome thought. But this one has actually cropped up in recent years since I've been giving this presentation. You're also at a higher risk if your mother or sister has had breast cancer, particularly if they were diagnosed under the age of 60. Don't know why, but it's been statistically proved. Now there's the aspect of at risk, and there's the aspect of body weight, because nobody knows how to prevent prostate cancer. There's not a vaccine, there's not a medicine you can take, you can't have a prophylactic, but you can help yourself by staying healthy, and weight may be important. They put it advisedly there. But being overweight or obese increases your risk of getting cancer, and that applies actually to all types of cancer, not just prostate cancer. So there we are, I've got you worried. You are one of the 1 in 8 perhaps. Your father, your brother, your cousin, your mother might have had cancers. And you've got no symptoms. So what should I do next? Well, it's up to you to take action, because nobody will do it for you. There's no national screening program, unlike there is for breast cancer, unlike you get to the age of 60 and you get bowel cancer screening, because the tests that are available are not reliable enough and too many false positives. Your GP won't phone you up one day or email you or send you a letter saying, come and get tested for prostate cancer. If you do nothing, nothing will happen. So I would recommend, if you're the least bit worried, or if you're over 60 or in your late 50s, speak to your GP. Can't do any harm. And you can do some simple tests to find out if you have a prostate problem. And your doctor will explain the pros and cons, because being tested, actually, although I would advise it, isn't always perfect, because there can be too many false positives. You can go through many invasive tests, perhaps, and nothing happens. But I leave it up to you to decide, and your doctor is the best person to help you decide. The other interesting point is that there is no single test to diagnose prostate cancer. I'll perhaps come back to that in my personal case, but you can't just give a test and say you've got it, or how severe is it, or this is how we're going to treat it. You can have tests that would point you along the diagnostic route, and if the first test is negative, that's probably it, but then you've got to do other tests. And so we'll come back to that. The main tests, though, include initially a urine test, and that's just to check for infections. There's the PSA test, which I think is probably reasonably widely known. PSA is prostate-specific antigen. It's an antigen which is in the blood, and by diagnosing or analysing the blood, you can work out whether you have prostate cancer or likely to have prostate cancer. So it's a simple blood test, just a needle in the arm, and send it off to the lab, and you know. And that was my personal first step along the way, which is why I was back in the doctor's surgery 2 days later saying, oh dear. So, frighteningly though, a raised PSA may show that you have a problem with your prostate, but not necessarily prostate cancer. Well, it's probably not frightening, but it's just worrying that it's so. At the moment, medical science doesn't have the answers, not all of them. Now, there is another one which rather non-technically is known as finger up the bum, but I think you understand what I mean. Because you can actually insert a digit, hopefully with a glove, and go up the rectum and feel the outside of the prostate. It's only a few inches up there, and as I said, the doctor or nurse feels here. So the digital rectal examination, or DRA, and that was my next step along the way, incidentally. The doctor just saying, yeah, we've definitely got a problem here. So a prostate gland with hard, bumpy areas may suggest prostate cancer. Now, when I went to the doctor, and I'll probably repeat this later, but when I think of it, I'll mention it. The doctor said, how old are you? And I was in my late 50s. Do you have any family history of it? No. Do you have any symptoms? No. And he said, I won't give you a test because there are too many false positives. And the NHS suggests or advises that we don't carry out the test. Well, being an awkward bugger, probably because I'm an engineer, I always question things, and I looked him straight in the eye and said, I want a test. So he did. Now, life is slightly easier now because the NHS has reappraised the situation, and you should not be refused a test if you make the choice, having spoken to the doctor and understood the consequences. But it's quite frightening that in this day and age you should be turned down. But I've argued it with lots of people, and I can see the pros and the cons, because you could totally flood the NHS with every single possible disease and trying to prove that you don't have it. So there we are. We've gone broadly over the subject as presented in the awareness presentation. So you should know where your prostate is and some idea of what can go wrong, the signs and the symptoms, and the fact that there aren't necessarily symptoms, but some of the signs generally to do with the waterworks, as I said, the risk of age, family history, ethnicity, and to be careful with your body weight, just as I am, or should be, and to know your rights, that you can insist that your doctor gives a test, and what to do next is to talk to your GP. So, actions to take. There is an excellent website, prostatecanceruk.org, and there's a vast array of literature. In fact, some of it is here, but you can download it online or you can order it from that website. We will, incidentally, I'll just go over here first. Oops. If you just only take one bit of literature with you, I would implore you to take this. In fact, we've got quite a lot of them you can take into your colleagues. It's credit card size, known as a Z fold, for probably reasons that we can work out. But it's got everything you need, including the website address, the phone number, etc. of the charity. So Know Your Prostate, a quick guide. That is worth taking with you. Actually, the reason that I got tested, and I knew about it, is that some years before I had a similar size thing sent to me by a prostate charity in Scotland. Now, goodness knows how I got it, but it was sitting in my drawer for a number of years until one day I was with my GP and I said, I'm coming up 60, repeating myself. What do I need to do about prostate cancer testing? So these things are effective. I think something like that saved my life. You can also speak to the specialist nurses. They are well trained. I've met some of them, and they're there on the end of a phone to allay your fears or to help you along the way if you're being treated. They have the specialist knowledge and the time, and they're here to support you. But emphasizing again to speak to your GP. So that's thank you in the end of the official bit, but I haven't finished yet, so don't go away. Just a bit about the Prostate UK charity.
Gentlemen, I've got some bad news and some good news.
Okay, the bad news is that your chances of getting prostate cancer are now just 7 to 1. In fact, prostate cancer is killing one man every single hour of the day in this country. Imagine that, one every hour of the day. But the good news is, we're forming a team to stop that clock. Men United.
It's time men united together to fight prostate cancer, the way women have united against breast cancer. We need to get together and find a cure, as well as better ways to care for the 250,000 prostate cancer sufferers out there. Please, get on side, search Men United and join us in the fight. Men United versus prostate cancer. We can win this.
So the idea is to get greater public awareness. There's a lot of football grounds where it's promoted, increasingly now rugby grounds, cricket grounds, where men congregate, and pubs and various clubs. This is one of the promotional videos which I would like to share with you. got you even more worried now, isn't it? But the important thing, I think, is that this charity, and it's virtually doubled in size since I got involved in it, is doing something positive. That's good. All right, well, quickly now, I don't know what the time is. How are we doing for time?
Yeah, good.
Yeah? Yep. Half an hour left? Yeah. Oh, I'll speak slower then. Okay. My brush with prostate cancer, it's just my personal bit that I've added to this, because I think it's nice to identify with the reality of it rather than the bald statistics. This is one man's experience. And I've already told you that my GP said that I wasn't old enough to have a test. And because I had no symptoms, he wasn't going to give me a test. And because there was no family history of fathers and brothers and mothers with breast cancer, etc., it didn't put me high on the priority. And the argument was there was too many false positives. I've said that that has largely gone away, but I still hear stories of GPs saying, no, come back, we will. And they have this expression called watchful waiting, which I think must be the most terrifying thing on earth to have. They say, well, we think you've got it, but we'll just watch and wait. It might actually be the right answer, but it's a bit of a cloud to be living under. So my treatment was in 3 stages. The interesting thing is I've yet to meet anybody that's had precisely the same sequence of tests and the same sequence of treatment, because it is a very, very complicated thing. There was a team of about 12 people diagnosed me towards the end. The final meeting before deciding on the treatment, there were 12 people sitting around a table in Luton and Dunstable Hospital, the oncologist, the radiologist, the somebodyologist, and whatever. But that's a frightening but very, very encouraging thing. It's an expensive treatment, incidentally. My sister used to work at Mount Vernon, which is where I was treated with radiotherapy, and she came to pick me up on the last day of my treatment, and she said, you could have bought a house with what that cost. The equipment in there, they've got 12 radiotherapy machines which are made in California and shipped over in massive lead cabins, and it's big, but the NHS does provide it, whatever you think of the NHS. Short-term hormonal therapy, it's about as nasty as it sounds. The prostate grows because of testosterone. If you've got too much testosterone, it's inclined to get bigger. So the idea of putting me on hormone therapy was to get rid of the testosterone, and therefore the prostate gland would shrink, and it would make a smaller target for the radiotherapy, which is the next stage, so it wouldn't spread to the other parts of the body. If you shrink it down to make it small, it's intuitively wrong, perhaps. You'd have a bigger target, so you get it, but in fact it's all accurately computer steered. So the idea is to make it small and easy to get at. And the hormones get rid of the testosterone, so you have the interesting experience of going through a menopause and a change of life and have hot flushes and other things. There are no ladies present, but you can imagine what happens to down below as well, which is one of the consequences, sadly, of some aspects of the treatment. So I was becoming a lady in many respects. I was driving off with the handbrake on. I couldn't read a map. Sorry, couldn't resist that. But anyway, perhaps I being a bit more sympathetic to ladies going through the change of life. Anyway, that went on for about a couple of years, but 6 months before the treatment. The next one is what they call moderate doses of radiotherapy, and that's just a photograph of the entrance of the Mount Vernon Cancer Centre. And I needed to go there every day for 6 weeks. You only have about 2 or 3 minutes of being radiated with these machines, but it takes a chunk out of your life. And that's just Mount Vernon. That's the old hospital there, and the huge therapy there with the 12 radiotherapy rooms. and hugely technical, as you would imagine. On the left there is the control room, and there's one of those for each of the places. Having previously got MRI and CAT scans and got a full 3D picture of the body, they then work out where it's to go, and the radio thing goes all the way around you, and you lie on this machine in the lead line room all on your own. They, to make sure it works right the next time, getting a bit technical for you technical guys, but they want to make sure that the radio beams are aligned precisely at the same time every time. So they put 3 little tattoo marks, almost invisible, but they line it up and there are laser beams flying all around. And it's very impressive. So that's the radiotherapy. So 6 weeks of that. And then that was the moderate radiotherapy and a thing called brachytherapy, which is an extraordinary thing. I don't know how many of you know that men have a perineum. A lot of you know that ladies have a perineum because it gets mucked up sometimes during childbirth, but sort of down here, without being any more graphic, there's a perineum, and they put 16 little plastic tubes through there, up into the prostate, and then they can fire radioactive, I think it's iodine, tiny little pellets inside you, again in a lead-lined room, and they sort of paint a picture within the prostate, because these tubes sort of go into bits of it, but they fire them down also with plastic spacers, and they push the radioactive bits in there, and then they suck them all out and they do them again. So they eventually paint a picture with inside the prostate, so they can radiate everything without radiating stuff outside. And that's a fairly new technique, and I was fortunate enough to have that. It wasn't entirely pleasant, but at the end of it, it was just another advert. I'm going to say at the end of it, my consultant said, I will die of something else, which is as good a cure as you can ever hope for, I think. So this is again something which has appeared on the telly. It just illustrates really the amount of publicity that prostate cancer has been doing.
It's time to do something great together. Join Men United and help beat prostate cancer. Search Men United now.
There is one more little video which I added only yesterday, which I thought I would share with you, because it's one that's come out quite recently, very short one, and it just sums up, I think, what we put. So it's quite a good conclusion. Either this one or the next one.
Prostate cancer is the most common cancer in men in the UK. So, what is a prostate? Well, only men have one. It's here, underneath the bladder, surrounding the urethra. That's the tube men urinate and ejaculate through. So what can go wrong? Common prostate problems include an enlarged prostate, prostatitis, which is the inflammation or infection of the prostate, or prostate cancer. Common symptoms of a prostate problem include needing to pee more often than usual, day or night, difficulty going for a pee, a weak flow, or needing to rush to pee. But most men with early stage prostate cancer have no symptoms at all. So, are you at risk? In the UK, 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer at some point in their lives. If you're black, you're at a higher risk. 1 in 4 black men will get prostate cancer. You are 2.5 times more likely to get prostate cancer if your father or your brother has had it. You may also have a higher risk of prostate cancer if your mother or your sister has had breast cancer. Prostate cancer mainly affects men over the age of 50, and your risk increases as you get older. If you have any questions or concerns, there is help available. Go to your GP. Speak to one of our specialist nurses on 0800 074 8383 or visit prostatecanceruk.org.
Well, I'd just like to thank you all very much for coming along and for your valuable time and being so attentive and asking some intelligent questions. I sincerely hope none of you get it, but the chances are, sadly, you will. And I hope you're treated as well as I was. It's not all bad. Thank you very much.